No matter your age, I am guessing you have memories of heading back to school. In fact, when I say back to school, you can probably picture certain things. I love seeing all of my friends' first day of school photos on social media, in part because it makes me remember having my own picture taken on my front porch with my sister. Looking back now, of course, it's always interesting to see what outfits we chose, and I'm sure my kids will do the same thing someday. Pink Crocs, really? First day of school pictures portray one image of who our kids are, or who we are. But what about the things we can't see in the photos? Because we all know this, who our kids are is way more complex than any first day of school photo will ever reveal. Asking the question, who am I, is something kids of all ages do at this time of year. And even if you don't have kids, there's a certain rhythm of newness to this time of year that I think causes all of us to think about our identities. The seasons start to change, schedules change, even stores change what they offer, and my pink Crocs can be lined for fall and winter. So today, with back to school on our minds, we're asking about our identities. If you have a child entering 6th grade, they might be asking, who am I as I enter a brand new school? If you have a student who took violin lessons all summer before they enter the orchestra, they might be asking, who am I as a musician? I can remember certain summers where my social groups changed. Who am I as a friend? I have some good friends that just sent their first child to college, and they're asking, who are we as parents now that one of our kids is out of the house? This idea of identity, it shows up in the Bible again and again. In the book of Genesis, God creates humankind in God's image, in God's likeness. We read, and God calls the creation of humans very good. Who am I? I am created as a person who is very good in the image of God. Colossians chapter 3 reads, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Part of our identity as people of faith is being chosen and being loved. In the book of Acts, our glimpse into the forming of the early church, we hear Paul preach in chapter 13, therefore, my friends, I want you to know that through Jesus, the forgiveness of sins is proclaimed to you. Who am I? I'm forgiven. But today I invite you to look with me in the book of Mark at the very beginning. We learn a little bit about the identity given to Jesus himself, which is a way I think that can speak powerfully to us as well. The author of Mark dives right into the story of Jesus' ministry. There's no manger scene, there's no wise men who follow a star, no stories of Jesus as a child. Instead, Mark starts with John the Baptist, a guy who was presumably pretty charismatic because people from all over the country were coming to hear him, to be baptized by him. A guy who baptizes people, but also tells the crowds about another man coming after him who is even more powerful. And in verse 9, we read about John baptizing this very man, Jesus. We read, just as Jesus was coming up out of the water, he saw heaven being torn open and the Spirit descending on him like a dove. And a voice from heaven saying, you are my Son, whom I love. With you I am well pleased. See, Jesus hadn't done anything yet. He didn't have the identity from the Pharisees who thought he was a fake, or from the crowds who were skeptical of him healing people who had no social status. The question of who am I was answered with 3 simple statements. You are my Son, whom I love, and with whom I am well pleased. Jesus' first identity was given from God. God proclaimed his love for Jesus and his affirmation, not based on anything he did or didn't do, but for who he was. So today, I invite you to think about your own identity, or maybe of your kid who is asking, who am I as I head back to school? Because those first day of school pictures, they're wonderful. I'll be the first one to make my kids stand outside and take them. But remember, they only say so much about who our kids are. Be reminded today that no matter what you do or what you don't do, your first identity is as a child of God.